Welcome back to the Differential Show. On this episode, I will talk about the Big Six. And if you don't know what that is, then you're going to need to stay tuned. I will also talk about how my team fared out, and I'll take a look at transfers for this upcoming week. But first, make sure you hit that subscribe button. The Big Six, what does that mean? It means there's essentially 6 players that we're all kind of trying to get on our team, but we're having trouble doing that. Is this what we're aiming for? Yes and no, just depending on how your team is structured. But I will say this, there's some comfort in those players, right? They have some good form, they have some good fixtures, and they're pretty consistent, right? But what about the other 5 players we would have to get to fund this team? This year's a little bit different. We have a lot of lower priced players that are doing well, and even recently. So for instance, with this Big Six, that would be 3 midfielders that are taken, so we have 2 left at with the 3-5-2 formation. But we can still fit in players like Matoma, Diaby, Mbuemo, Neto, who's injured but will be coming back soon, Douglas Luiz, and Gordon. So there are players, you can even throw in Palmer, some players to be able to fund this. And then look at the defense. Players under 5.0 like Simicast, who's going to be playing with the team for a couple months. Romero, Van de Ven, Pinnock, who scored yesterday. Gulli, actually, that would have been today he scored. And Byrne and Powell. So we have enablers to get it, and they're still quality players. So there is some comfort within this structure of a team. So on the other side of it, who does it take us away from getting? Maybe. We play players like Bowen, Madison, Odegaard, Foden, Fernandez for like our midfielders, our strikers, Alvarez, Nunez, Wilson, and then the one defender would be Trent. So if you can live without those players, you can probably fund this team depending on your team value. I look at those players that I just named off, and I would definitely be going for the Big Six. So looking at my team from game week 11, this is probably my best week. I've moved up $500,000 in rank, 77 points. I can't even complain much at all. My players just did well. So I took a risk by not having Son, and my transfers for this week is I got rid of Mbuemo and Sterling. Now, talking about that, the thought process was they were playing each other. I would have thought that Sterling might get a result in this game, and I was willing to take that by moving on to Salah and Ndingra. But hindsight, Mbuemo did very well. He's got some good form going forward. His fixtures aren't awful, and he's a player that I might actually think about bringing back at some point, maybe even this week. But I got Salah. That was the player I really wanted to get. I like Ndingra as an enabler within this team. And if you can see, we can just start in the back. I went with Areola, which most of us went with. I had Ederson. I thought United in the derby would give a good effort and score at least 1 goal. That didn't happen, so I did drop some points on that decision. Trippier, man, that's rough to put that much money into a player, and I got a 0 from him. Diaz with the shutout. Not many teams got shutouts this season, so I'm definitely going to take that. Anderson. So Anderson's interesting because even in weeks that he doesn't get that shutout, he is still a potential to get a return. And this week he actually got an assist. Kind of fluky, kind of just put the ball back into play, but we'll take it because I think he is someone that a lot of us aren't thinking of just based on he's on Crystal Palace. But when Crystal Palace aren't playing the top teams, they're pretty hard to beat, and they have a lot of shutouts this season. So moving back to the midfield, Salah, I talked about Salah. He got that goal at the end on the mistake in the back. Bowen unlocked. Oh man, that was rough. Everton's defense is a lot better than people think. That's not really a team I would be targeting unless they're like a top team as a bad defense to go against. Ndingra, he was an enabler, so I was just happy that he played. I think going forward, he's someone I'm going to decide whether I want to keep him or not, but he's there. He's a placeholder at the moment. Diaby, This was the fixture. I was really thinking it was going to be Watkins this week, but I'm going to take that Diaby got me the goal and assist and the 13 points. Madison, a lot of people went to Saka for Madison and Saka. I stuck with Madison. It's kind of an even wash at the 6 points. I know that the fixtures aren't great going forward, but he is so central. He seems to always stay in the game. Yeah, you get subbed a little bit early here and there, but I kind of like just holding on to him because I do think he is a differential now because a lot of people went to Saka, so I'm holding on to that. And Darwin, oh, thank you, Darwin, for playing. It's unfortunate what happened to Diaz and his family. I know a lot of people had Diaz on their team, and he was not in the squad this game. But Darwin did come in and do a great job. And then Haaland. So a lot of those teams that wildcard in 10 that decided to not go with Haaland, this is what happens. I wasn't going to be on that side this year. I did that last year. I thought I'm going to try to go away. I went from away from Haaland twice last year, and that's what just hurt me. I'm not going away from Haaland. He can have a streak where he doesn't do well, but this is what happens. 2 goals and assists. He's got Bournemouth next week, and people that don't have him, that's going to be one you might want to think about funding. How are you going to figure out you're going to get him back in your squad going against Bournemouth? A definite captain option. So let's take a look at game week 12 and how I'm going to set up. Ederson's going back in goal with Diaz in the back line. So this is really the fixture where I do expect for a double shutout here. I know they have some tricky ones going forward, but for right now, I'm holding on to those 2 players with the Bournemouth shutout, hopefully. Trippier and Arsenal. He's going in there just basically on returns. I don't expect him to get a shutout there, but he does have Bournemouth a week after. I do like that one. And then I just talked about Anderson. He's away against Burnley, but I'm telling you, Crystal Palace's defense is better than a lot of people think. I would be surprised if he gets a return in this one too. So in the midfield, Salah, if it wasn't for Haaland, he would be an option as my captain, but Haaland's definitely getting the captaincy. And Madison going against Chelsea at home. Man, I don't know what Chelsea is this year. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they somewhere in the between? Maybe they are what their record says. They're kind of in the middle. But they go from a great game against Arsenal. They almost lost in the end, and then they just lose it against Brentford. But Madison's consistent. He's staying on my team. Diaby, Forest away. Forest's defense is not that bad. I know they gave up 3 today, but I could see probably like a 2-1 game, something like that. Bowen, I love the fixtures. He's got Brentford, Forest, Burnley next. He's staying on my team. So easy decision right there for the start. And Dingra, he's the one I talked about, may or may not stay depending on is he gonna start. But right now he's starting, so he's staying in there. Everton away. I wouldn't be shocked if this is also like a 2-1 game. I do expect Brighton to score, but I don't expect it to be a high-scoring game. Everton keeps things close, so Dingra is right there as an enabler. And then Haaland, my captaincy up front with Darwin. I'm hoping to ride that train right there. He did such a good job. I hope that Klopp sees that and he will stay up there and doesn't give Gakpo an opportunity to start. So on my bench, Areola, Archer, Udagi, and Gusto. So I used 2 transfers last week, so I have 1 this week. This might be a roll for me, but I'm going to go into some transfer options with your teams. More than likely, I'm going to roll this week, but I still want to give you 3 options for transfers. The first one, in defense, Tsimikas. He's got Luton away, Brentford at home in the next 2. He's someone that you can play over trip. You can be a player that you can just kind of platoon on that 3rd to 4th defensive spot. I would say if you have Udagi and you're just questioning it, maybe that's someone you want to bring in, like I spoke about before. Midfield, Diaby, Forest away, Fulham at home are the next 2. Just had a goal and assist. I would consider bringing him in at the 6.7 mark. And then up front, my buddy Nunez. I would just say he's, I just talked about the fixtures, Luton away, Brentford at home. You're just hoping that he gets the minutes, but he looked great. Someone that I would definitely consider. And then some transfer out options, really. You're kind of looking just at your flag players. So I talked about Udogie. I would say Neto in the midfield, just based on it's going to take a couple weeks for him to get back from the hamstring injury. And then up front, maybe this is the time to jump to Watkins or Nunez, right? And you may have to sacrifice Alvarez to do that. I don't think it's a must transfer. I would just think it's more of a luxury one to try to get on the train right there. And personally, I would go for Nunez, but if you're looking to drop someone up top, I mean, maybe it's Alvarez's time right now. Before I say goodbye, I want to talk about fixtures to target. Not just the color that you see on the green. There's 4 teams that I would consider the weakest defenses in the league, and that teams that are playing them you really want to target. Sheffield United by far. Then I would say it's Burnley, Bournemouth, and Luton. Don't be confused by the colors on this screen. Sometimes you see like a green for Everton. Everton's pretty good. So I would just be focused on those 4 fixtures, especially Sheffield United. This week it would have been Neto, but he's injured. So I can't say it's going to be Hwang or Cunha are really, really good options just based off they're playing Sheffield United. But Neto would have been the player if he wasn't injured. So that is it for this episode for Game Week 12. Please make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next week.